Immediately after I just finished playing around with some gray script and showing everyone the basics in programming, I see this and I'm like, holy crap, it's begun. So the question is, what the hell has begun? Well, I want to say something in the form of telemetry. Let's kind of do a quick recap on what these terms are. Xorg has been an open source interface for a long time. A lot of other GUIs are built on top. This is dealing with Linux based. And because open source tends to be very free in the form of freedom of speech versus free beer, we have a situation where anything that's becoming, I guess, so open that it can't be controlled by the conglomerates, they're starting to really want to kill things that don't necessarily work in the interests of those that have the bigger stake in the world of computing. Um, what can I say that as? Well, we're seeing basically, we're basically seeing corporations trying to dip their fingers in things they shouldn't be dipping their fingers in. Now, I had respect for Red Hat until I found that out, that Red Hat has been trying to kill basically competition. Not only competition, but open source competition. Open source being a set of code that anyone can look at, anyone can modify, anyone can participate in. This is the biggest this is the biggest good thing in humanity is to have the ability to look inside of what we're using. And you have proprietary software like Microsoft, which we all know and love, Microsoft with a dollar sign for S, who have basically hid their code and also on that time, at the same time, not really showing us um, the ability to like look at the code and be like, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, this is going to be an exploit. Hey, this is going to be a security issue. You should probably fix this. Hey, here's your patch. As an open source community, we like to dabble in the code and check it to see if we can find anything that we can expose. And when we do, we fix it. But we can't do that with code that we don't see. So that's the difference between proprietary Microsoft and open source Linux. Now, Ubuntu has been a big player in the Linux industry as a very decent mainstream type of Linux. But now it's starting to get a little fishy. So let's take a look at what's happening here.
11 implementation following the announcement, immediately following the
Oh, hold on. I guess my volume wasn't set. Let's do it again.
Ubuntu and Gnome both drop support for Xorg, for the Xorg open source X11 implementation, following the announcement, immediately following the announcement of a fork to continue the development of Xorg, which Red Hat has been trying to kill for years. This is a very, very peculiar and fascinating story to follow. And I want to lay out a couple of timelines here so that you can kind of see exactly what's happening and make up your own mind. Okay, so here's the timeline. On June 5th, the Lunduk Journal broke the story that Xorg was being forked. And the basic summary of that is thus. For years, the Xorg team, the Xorg community council people, which is predominantly kind of run by Red Hat, as well as a sprinkling of others around the open source world, and is hosted at Free Desktop, which is also heavily driven by Red Hat, has been kind of trying to kill off Xorg, the de facto X Windows display server across all Linux machines for decades now. So much so that there were over or roughly 3,000 commits or merge requests of code waiting to be released, and they just simply, the Xorg team just does not want them released. So it gets
That's
so
interesting.
extreme that people who are advocating for bug fixes and security patches and features and security improvements to
Right.
Xorg have been told that they are crazy if they think there's going to be any future updates to Xorg. So Xorg got forked because that's what you do when someone tries to kill a project, right?
Yeah.
So I,
So, oh yeah, like when you're doing any sort of development, you have a project, you have a community, you gain partnership with a bigger corporation, you start working on something together, and eventually, when the reach of that partnership becomes a little bit too, well, demanding, you say, all right, cool. We're just gonna take whatever code we have currently and we're gonna work over here. You guys keep doing whatever you want to do. You can, I guess, use an Xorg fork now if the way that you have it. But we're gonna continue the project on the other side. So there's like a weird this agreement between the two sides here. The corporate Red Hat and the open source free systems and developers that basically just want to use their passion, man.
I unveiled to the world that this was happening on June 5th. That cat's out of the bag now. Everyone's starting to talk about it. Fantastic. 3 days later, let me see if I've got this here. 3 days later, on June 8th, it was announced that GNOME was going to be officially dropping support for Xorg, like right away, right? And in the days between June 5th and June 8th, Red Hat did everything in their power to try and silence this. They deleted the repository of the fork. They started mass closing a backlog of hundreds, if not thousands, of merge requests that
That's
were
fuck.
sitting in the backlog for Xorg. They just closed them off completely. Those weren't for the fork, by the way. Those were for Xorg proper. They also banned the user or the developer of the Xorg fork from being involved in Xorg or free desktop or anything, despite the fact that he was one of the most prolific developers they had at that point. Right, so they were doing everything they could to just try and silence this project, to suppress this project, right? And 3 days after news of the project came out, GNOME then announced that they were just dropping Xorg completely. So the X11 session, this is from blog.gnome.
And GNOME itself is kind of like it's essentially a built on top of Xorg, right? GNOME and Ubuntu have been known to be very together. Ubuntu created this GNOME shell alternative to your typical GNOME 2.0 user interface. It's just basically your desktop, it's the icons, it's the little window floating around. And GNOME kept changing. And I remember keeping up with it a long time ago. GNOME kept changing to a point where it started to be very mainstream, very bulky, very fancy, and it started losing its efficiency. So there's this weird also personal perspective where GNOME has been trying really hard to like, I guess, get people involved in Linux, the regular folks, the mainstream people, but they're not doing a good job trying to maintain the open source ethic of making sure that things are transparent. I mean, transparency is just the biggest keyword you can use in open source. Having a transparent system helps you see how it's built, what it's built for, what the code looks like, that there's no viruses or something inside that could be passed on to the user being the person using the system. Oh, and this is a little disappointing to see.
Gnomes.org on June 8th. The X11 session for GNOME for version 49 will be disabled by default, and it's scheduled for removal either during this development cycle or more likely during the next one by GNOME 50. So it's going to be just gone completely. As a side note, they also end, because it's GNOME after all, and you can never pass up a good opportunity to virtue signal in a contradictory and bizarre way. At the end, they end this announcement by declaring Happy Pride Month and Free Palestine
What the
fist emoji.
what the hold on, hold
I
on,
feel like
hold on, hold on. When did this become Okay. DEI is transformed. DEI has progressed. We see it in gaming industries. We see how it's destroyed AAA titles. We see how people are losing their jobs because the ethic, not even the ethic, because the merit of their work is crap just because they were hired for a particular box check on their company's overall requirements to have certain types of people there. And now we're seeing the same trend happening in Linux. Like, I always thought that gaming was one place that you can kind of reflect on the rest of the industries that exist. You know, the hired people that are you a skilled person or did they hire you because you're a black woman, right? In this case, we're starting to get to this point where we're seeing politics, politics start playing a role in open source. Come on, guys.
I don't need to point out to them that if you're
This is
celebrating
getting
Pride Month
ridiculous.
in Gaza, you're probably not making it out alive because the government of Gaza would kill you because it's officially illegal to celebrate. Anyway, I digress
Yeah,
because it's Gnome and they don't know what the heck's going on.
that's
They don't know
crazy.
their from their elbow. But they announced that
Lol.
okay, X11 Xorg gone, no longer going to be a thing in Gnome going forward. 2 days later, on what is this, on June 10th, Ubuntu came out and declared that in this very next release of Ubuntu, version 25.10, the version that comes out this October, boom, gone. No more support for Xorg in their default desktop environments, which are all GNOME based, right? They're just giving them the boot. Now, all this is happening quickly. Now, a lot of you watching along and listening along at home will think, well, but aren't some of these projects trying to get rid of Xorg? Isn't that a thing they've been doing for years now? And the answer is yes. They, absolutely. GNOME, Ubuntu, Red Hat especially. These companies and organizations have been trying to kill Xorg for
That's crazy.
years and years.
And think of why they would. If you don't have the ability to discreetly place something in your interface that they can watch you with, which is becoming a very big uh, thing nowadays. Even Microsoft has this feature where it takes screenshots of your screen and then all of a sudden it's a magic little thing where it can tell you what's happening or an AI comes in and starts telling you about your screen. But this feature is actually taking your desktop or pictures of your desktop, call it surveillance. And then they're saying, hey, we're just using it to optimize the way the Windows system works. But in the end, it's like, well, how do we know you're not using it for something else? Show us the code. Show us what it's for. If it was in an Xorg space where you have the ability to take a look inside of the code, you'd be like, ah, we see you sending data back to your server. What are you doing? So when you have an open system, it's much harder to apply, well, what I think is the current trend in technology, surveillance. You can't apply surveillance because that surveillance is going to be visible in the code and you're going to see that information being sent somewhere. So you make it proprietary. You make it hidden. You make it invisible to the regular individual or even the people that are just playing around with code, curious at how stuff works. And you have systems that are now basically spying on you at the same time that they're telling you it's a feature that helps you work. And with AI, you can pass that screenshot into the AI and the AI can make a judgment and then report you and some shit like this. Like this might be the next steps of this progress. That's why I haven't updated to Windows 11, to be honest. I'm still on 10. I'm chill with 10. I'm probably going to keep 10 forever. I've got some versions and some things I can do with my Windows system that'll break it apart from the servers that it communicates with. This is getting a little bit too 1984, man.
It's been an ongoing thing, and it's kind of wild because not only do they not want to develop it themselves and not want to support it, they are actively engaged in trying to silence people who've been talking about it, and it's absolutely fascinating. Let me see if I've got something here. Yes, so I had lots of questions about everything that's been going on. I've been asking everyone. I've been asking GNOME. I've been asking Ubuntu. I've been asking Red Hat and Xorg and Free Desktop, and I haven't been getting any satisfactory responses. However, the developer behind the app image file format, right? So app images over on the Linux side of things, a nice little self-contained bundled application.
Basically like an exe, but for Linux.
Right? It's a nice, easy way for developers to ship an application as a single file across a.
And if you saw the previous stream we were doing in Greyhack, I opened up a couple of exe files, and those were just a bunch of files within it. You can use 7-zip or any archive manager and just open up one of the exes, and you'll see it's actually just multiple files compressed into a single exe. That's all these single executables are. And that's the same thing that app image is as well.
A variety of Linux distributions. App images are fantastic in that way. The developer behind that had questions himself. So he went over to the Xorg and free desktop bug tracking systems and really just asked a very simple question. Please give a technical justification. This is what he said here, for why they were closed in the respective threads of each of these merge requests. So explain why merge requests were closed. Real simple, because man, did they close a heck of a lot of them. And God bless him, the developer behind App Image just
look at that. One of the merge requests, add extra safety checks. Don't we want that? Don't we want the ability to check and make sure that things are working well without having exploits or security flaws or safety checks that we can make sure that things are working well? Like, are we just setting ourselves up to make crap software in the future? Like purposefully exploitable systems that people can take to their advantage and hack us? Like, I don't know.
listed out a bunch of them. I don't even think he listed out all of them, just a bunch of them, because there's so many merge requests, and they were all closed by Red Hat, right? These were
Nice.
these were Red Hat employee specifically working at Red Hat, I believe on Red Hat time, doing this on behalf of Red Hat, as far as I could tell, right? So all these were getting closed out. So why were these closed? It's fascinating. He got a response. The response, in my opinion, opened up more questions than it provided answers. So this was from the freedesktop.org
Code of
Conduct Committee.
Fuck?
And before I read this,
What?
I want to say something rather strange.
Dude,
here.
HR
And
is ruining
this is
everything.
peculiar. If you try to reach out to the free desktop project, the primary points of contact are their code of conduct committee. And they list out their email addresses for all the people on their code of conduct committee, but there's really not other good ways to communicate with them. And it appears
Who are
as
these
though
people?
no matter what kind of question you ask, because in this case, the app image developer was asking for a technical justification for closing specific bugs. But he got a response from the code of conduct committee. So it's fascinating. So that means that the free desktop project is really run by the Code of Conduct Committee, which is primarily run by Red Hat. This is all important stuff to understand. So this is what the Code of Conduct Committee said. Quote, the author has been banned after a decision from the Free Desktop Code of Conduct Committee. Closing the merge request was not a direct action, but an indirect consequence of deleting the forked repository. GitLab closes related merge requests when a repository is deleted. End quote. Couple issues there. First, they're being very, very non-transparent about why exactly a decision was made by a code of conduct committee to ban someone for what seems to be the sin of forking open source software that they themselves don't want to continue development of.
So basically, because they were like, hey, we don't agree, we're going to make our own side. We're going to take the code, fork it, and then make our own changes. Oh, you can't do that. We're now banning you. What the hell? This is open source. This is something that everyone has access to. What are you talking about? What is your reasoning? What?
Right? So Free Desktop and Xorg do not want to continue development of Xorg. They don't like Xorg. They like Wayland. They want to make sure Xorg dies. Someone else forks Xorg, so they consider that a code of conduct violation and ban that person? bizarre. And the fact that they're
Yeah.
refusing to provide any sort of information about that is absolutely fascinating. In fact, someone asked as a follow-up question, does the committee has a secretary and keep logs of meetings? Because it sure would be interesting to see those logs to see
Yeah.
why these decisions were made.
If you're looking at things like, there's a lot of people that are really talking about Linux lately. Any just an ordinary gamer, Asmongold, I think, mentioned it before. There's a bunch of people that are really starting to talk. Penguin Zero talking about going into a new system because they're pissed off at how Windows is starting to basically tap into every single data that we do. Speaking about the screenshots that it takes and tells you on your computer with an AI what's going on your screen, whether that's actually safe, whether that's actually what it's doing. These companies are trying to really start accessing our private systems for their own personal gains. If not, in this case, trying to kill the alternative. They're trying to essentially kill, or at least, I guess, wolf in sheep's clothes on the most commonly used Linux system so that they can also do the same thing and then be like, oh, whether you use Windows or whether you use Linux, we're still going to spy on you stuff. Like this is what it seems like it's starting to be. People are realizing Windows is getting a little bit too touchy with our data, and a lot of people are like, "Hey, fuck it, I'm gonna do Linux now." And now they're noticing this, and it seems like it's just a process that they're trying to like, "Hey, if you're gonna do Linux, here's the best one, Ubuntu or whatever," but you're still gonna be caught in the crossfire of data insecurity.
It's also worth pointing out that all of the merge requests that were closed were not merge requests that were opened of the forked project. They were merge requests of the Xorg project themselves, which means all of those requests, which in some cases go back more than a year, a lot of them were from 2024 and 2023. I mean, there's thousands of them. They were being closed against Xorg, not the forked project. So the justification given here is not entirely accurate. I'll just put it that way to
Yeah,
say
it's
it
not even
nicely.
a justification.
And what we're seeing happening all around is people having a visceral reaction to all of this. We're seeing a lot of people who are like, darn it, you are going to use Wayland. You are going to kill off Xorg. You are not allowed to use Xorg. You are not allowed to use an X11 or X Windows or X Display Server, none of it. You
That's
will
the
use
classics. That's
Wayland
what
and
we're
you
built
will
on.
like it. But then other people still are like, the hell I will. I'm
Yeah,
going
fuck
to use
yeah,
what I
fuck
want.
you.
And here's my personal
That's
thoughts on
more
all
reason
that.
for me to use it now.
I have no um, personal passion of whether or not Xorg or Wayland is your display server of choice. I couldn't care less if you what display server you or anyone else chooses to use on their open source predominantly and free software desktop. I just don't care. But I like having choice, and I don't see a reason to suppress open source projects.
Unless you're trying
Likewise,
to
from
replace
a
it with something
purely
that you can
use
control.
case and technical perspective, there are a vast number of reasons why someone would choose to use Xorg or a fork of Xorg like X Libre instead of Wayland. We're talking accessibility use cases,
Speed,
application compatibility use
that's
cases,
true.
performance use cases.
Performance.
There's a huge number of reasons that I prefer Xorg currently over Wayland. That doesn't mean that, some years down the line, I won't go, well, you know what, the times have changed, Wayland's improved, now I'll use Wayland instead. It's a good piece of software. Either way, I don't have bad feelings against either of these pieces of software. But I find it incredibly strange, to a fascinating degree, how
Suspicious.
the advocates and proponents of Wayland, Ubuntu, GNOME, Red Hat, especially the free desktop project, are
Free desktop.
so passionate that not only should you use Wayland, but you shouldn't even talk about Xorg. You shouldn't contribute patches to Xorg. You shouldn't even be allowed to fork Xorg. It's fascinating. And while many of these projects have been working to migrate in some fashion or another,
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of how it's essentially illegal to use ROMs and emulators. We had a really good run back in the 2010s of really good games. And then give it a couple of years later, we have all these AAA slop trash games. When you're at a point where you're trying to choose a game and you see that the current ones are shit, you're gonna go back and say, I'm gonna play the old games. Because you're in essence making a decision to not accept this new slop that's given to you, and you're going to go back to what you know is good. And this is the same kind of feel. Like they're trying to restrict something that we've been doing forever, using forever, and stating that, oh, don't use it anymore, use the new stuff. But then the new stuff could be complete garbage. In the case he said that the performance was better in Xorg. I agree. It's more efficient, more bare bones, more performance centered. So it's really weird to see that this conflict is happening in the computer operating system industry.
Away from Xorg and towards Wayland over the last several years. The fact that they've all decided to do it within hours of the first viable fork of Xorg being announced by developers who know how to develop on it and have been around long enough that it has actually some real chance at success. The moment that happens, and the moment it seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel for Xorg, for X11 in the open source and Linux world, the moment that happens, boom, boom, they rally the troops and say, fine, we won't ship it at all, it's done, we're dropping support entirely. They chose that very moment. The odds of that being the exact moment over the course of years when they could have done this. They could have done it last month. They could have done it last year, 5 years ago. They could have done it next year, next summer. They could have done it a few weeks from now. But no, they chose this exact second to
Yeah,
do it.
that's
It's
true.
extremely telling. And I find it absolutely fascinating. Now, you might be sitting at home and going, well, it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence that within
Nothing's
days
a fucking
of it being
coincidence.
announced that this was
Nothing.
happening and Red Hat working tirelessly to censor and squash this project, that Ubuntu rallies the troops and drops Xorg, and GNOME rallies the troops and drops Xorg, all as one big collective team, almost in lockstep. You may think, oh, that's a coincidence. I don't see a coincidence here. That's too many coincidences all at once. It's just not likely. These are related. I want to.
So, okay, good enough on that. Let me show you. Let's kind of take a look because I'm haven't kept up with the display drivers servers. So you got GNOME, we have KDE, we have XFC, Wayland. Let's see what these are gonna pop up. Linux gaming too. NVIDIA GPU, use Xorg, otherwise you can either, and it will run pretty well. For GNOME versus KDE, it is more personal preference. So GNOME is, again, another window display server, and KDE is actually super fancy. I'm not a fan of KDE because of the fanciness. It actually uses more hardware, and I like to keep my stuff efficient. So when I use KDE, I basically dedicate more graphics to that fanciness, and it prevents me from actually running more uh well games or anything else. It just takes a percentage of the graphics processor, right? Won't recommend anything to you, but I'll share my knowledge. Depending on what kind of hardware, Wayland can be mixed bag. NVIDIA GPU, depending on what you're doing, Wayland, it can be actually good for you. Actually good for you. Next, Wayland will take care of the rest. Legacy application, depending on what hardware is utilized. Wayland can be a mixed bag. True. Zorg is stable, but the security risk is something to keep in mind. Give or take, I mean, you all got security risks. But as far as Zorg goes, it's an open source, so whenever a security flaw is found, they will essentially patch it. Fedora is one of those nice ones. I haven't played with Fedora. What that look like now? It was one of my favorites back in the day, but it was a fancy one, right? Let's see what a desktop be looking like now. Yeah, it's just, oh, well, Fedora is kind of, I think, a fork from Red Hat too. The Atomic Desktop, Silver Blue, Fedora is an Ultimate KDE. Yeah, there's a KDE Plasma, very much trying to be like a Windows Aero, Windows graphical interface there. Atomic Desktop, Sway. I mean, you can take a look at that, right? Oh, no, you can't. What the heck? Give me some bigger screenshots, huh? Probably should install it and play with it. I should do that. I should go through, let me download it. I should go through a couple of Linuxes and play around with them, 'cause it's been a while since I played with Linux, and it's getting to a point where I really want to make sure I have a good set and I can migrate to another system if I need to, because it's getting weird out here. Gnome plus Wayland needs for gaming performance. Gaming performance on Wayland is bad if you have multi-monitor. What a multi-monitor. That's an interesting. Issues with Wayland. It breaks everything. If you're interested in exiting application to just work, existing applications without the need for adjustments, then you may be better off avoiding Wayland. Wayland solves no issues. I have breaks almost everything I need, even the most basic, most simple things like Xkill. In this case, with no obvious replacement. Update 06. X11 is alive and well despite what Red Hat wants you to believe. Nice. X server is continuing. When was this? 1 hour ago. Ooh, snap. For the record, even if the latest Raspberry Pi OS, you still can't drag a file from inside a zip file onto the desktop for it to be extracted. Drag and drop is broken. Weird. The Wayland project seems to operate like they were starting a greenfield project, whereas at the same time they try to kill the position Wayland as the X11 successor, which would clearly require a lot of thought about not breaking. What's greenfield project? Greenfield project is one that lacks constraints imposed by prior work. The analogy is to the construction of a greenfield land where there is no need to work within the constraints of existing buildings or infrastructure. So they're basically trying to break general standards. In fact, it is merely incompatible alternative. Do not use Wayland session. Let Wayland not destroy everything and then have other people fix the damage it causes. That's kind of a thing too in a lot of corporate systems is in order for people to make money, they need to give you a problem. If something works perfectly fine, there's no money in maintaining or fixing it. But when something breaks, then you have to seek someone to fix it for you. And then thus becomes oh, we can give you a service for $200 to fix this or that. So it feels like there is a case for like obsolescence. That's what makes money. And if something works well just by open source standards because anyone can modify it and improve on it, and now they're closing it down with Wayland. A crash in the window manager takes down all running applications. Damn. You cannot do a lot of things that you can do in Xorg by design. There is not one display server application that is desktop environment agnostic. It offloads a lot of work to each and every window manager. As a result, the same basic features get implemented differently in different window managers. That's weird. Okay. Yeah. I haven't heard of Wayland, not recently. The last ones I used were either mostly X FC, but I had to dabble with GNOME before I got to GNOME Shell. And KDE I kind of played with and was really interested in the way it looks, but it always kind of bogged down my system and basically felt like I'm running a Windows anyway. I like to have as much details as I can. Hmm. Let's do that. Let's open up this ISO here. Linux name live CD. I'm gonna install anything here. Just want to run that live CD. Storage empty. Doom. Choose disk file. Fedora workstation. I've always been a fan, man. I started with Red Hat too. Like That's where I started my Linux adventures, was with Red Hat. It's kind of sad that the corporations are really starting to try hard to suppress the open source world, man. Start live. Let's play around with some of these things too. Dbus run session, GNOME shell, display server. Throw in some music for the background while I'm doing this. All right. There it is. So we're starting GNOME Display Manager. Now, I don't know if I dedicated enough graphics for this run, but it shouldn't do anything crazy. And if GNOME really got that bulky, it might be pretty slow. Looks like it's slow. I only gave it 16 megabytes of memory, video memory. Oh, there it is. Oh, whoa, both windows are moving. What's up? Whee! Man, I need to change that. This is laggy as fuck. Welcome to fucking Fedora. What did they do to the system? I mean, it is fancy. I'll give it that. It looks fancy AF. Okay, is it loaded? Oh, buddy. Well, I guess I can expect that to happen in an emulator. Oh my god, I don't like it. I think I need to give it more memory, more video. It's gonna fuck up. Alright, close that. Let's go to settings, display, give it a little bit boost on that video memory. Monitor 1, scale factor 100. Let's do 3D acceleration because that's probably gonna help. Honestly, this is basically what Grey Hat does. The game basically creates an emulator and then you play within that sandbox, which is pretty cool. Let's see, X11 versus Wayland. What else can we find on that? Ooh, let's go to Reddit. Hi all, given the latest news from GNOME. This was, oh no, 2 years ago. That's not latest. Let's see, Red Hat shuts down Xorg. decision was based on evaluation of Wayland's maturity and its readiness to replace X11 for most enterprise use cases. I guess that's another situation is corporations normally judge what we use in a regular sense. So if enterprises are essentially trying to use one over the other, they're going to try and replace what we use as a regular consumer. Display configuration problems, issues with Wayland after resuming sleep or shutdown. Bro, this is what we had with like Windows Vista. When the system goes to sleep and you put it back on, everything just fucks up. Why are we going backwards in time? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Gaming on Linux? Xorg is dead? No, it's not. Some interesting Linux industry news. 2023 though, as long as road towards Wayland by default, everywhere is taking another big step. So instead of a whole operating system basically being anti-consumer, they're going to try and hijack the user interface. So when you click on stuff and when you're on a screen, they can watch what you do. That's what I'm getting here. That's what I'm seeing. They just want to keep watching what we're doing on our own devices now. Not to mention, Windows basically does this with that stupid screenshot thing. Let's see, Windows watches screens. 11. This watches what you do. Recall, that's the one. Which monitor user activity by capturing screenshots every 5 seconds when active. That's fucked up. Like, please don't take a screen of my screen. Stop looking into my stuff. Why are you doing that? And also, this is not working. The Xorg is crashing continuously. Well, I guess that's not going to be a way to use it. Why are you doing that? Yeah, if this is what Wayland's giving, fuck it. I don't want it. That's stupid. Can't even start up Wayland in a freaking virtual machine. Recall. Let's dig deeper into this. Retrace your steps with recall. Snapshots and contextual information derived from them are saved and encrypted. Oh, I'm sure they're encrypted. So you can unencrypt them whenever you feel like it. There it is. Tom's Hardware in with the fucking conclusion. Windows Recall, how it works, how to turn it off, and why you should, well, turn it off. It's been months since Microsoft Build 2024 Develop Conference in Seattle. Talking, of course, about Windows Recall, a new feature briefly arrived to preview form on Copilot PCs. Fuck Copilot. Microsoft Recall is rolling out the following majority controversy, what you need to know. Windows Recall is set to return October 2024. And it could be a huge privacy risk for users. Yeah. There's been a lot of wailing, gashing teeth in the features across the internet, especially among tech journalists. Microsoft takes steps to address said concerns, including reading emergency response into backlash of a blog post. Update and recall preview feature for Copilot. We are committed to delivering secure and trusted. Fuck you. No, you're not. Committed to yourself and your pockets. Microsoft's pitches the recall helps you find things better by letting you search your PC for anything you've seen. That's what it does. The pitch. Recall helps you find things better by letting you search what you have been seeing on the screen using natural language. To accomplish this, Recall takes snapshots of your screen at regular intervals, though it won't do so if the content on screen is identical to the previous snapshot. Okay, save some space. Great. These snapshots are literally images of whatever is on your PC screen at the time, and they're stored locally on your computer, analyzed and indexed for easier searching. Sure it is. According to Microsoft, this will enable you to search through history of your time in the PC and find anything from a document to a message someone sent. Yo, they really are screenshotting everything, including messages you're taking with people. Oh my god. Okay, so how do you disable it? Let's make sure we know how to do this. Privacy security. Let me go there. Private. If I have it, I don't think I have it personally because I'm on Windows 10. So I don't think I even have. What am I looking for? Recall. Ah, thank God. I don't have that shit installed on my computer. So this is what it's starting to look like. Windows is technically losing the battle. People are accessing Linux systems more regularly because now they can run games. You don't have to worry about the compatibility issue anymore. And we really have been stuck on Windows because of the compatibility of games, software, and everything we're used to doing on a regular basis. And now that everything's kind of progressing away from Windows, it sounds like Wayland and all these weird attempts at breaking the fork of Xorg is an attempt to hijack another set of data, more screenshots, because that's what this does. That's what Xorg does, and the Wayland does, is it keeps track of your display. So if you want to build a screenshot taking application, you do it in the Xorg or in the Wayland space, so you can take screenshots of whatever those are displaying, and then you can do the same exact thing and create a recall for Linux. Dude, I don't like this at all.
I want to thank all of the Lunduke journals.
Alright, well that's it, really. Holy crap. I'll leave the link in the description for anyone looking at it or wanting to share this or whatever. This is huge. This is absolutely... It's becoming more aggressive. I know that for a fact this has been continuous, a fight between open source and transparency and then the proprietary corporate world. This has been going on since I started using computers back in 2004. And it's starting to get a little aggressive by actually attacking open source and trying to silence them and snuff them so they can't continue growing. That's crazy. Anyway, that's it for this. I just really wanted to get a little detail on this. This is heavy shit. I don't like it at all. And I really hope that things do change and we don't go into this direction of fucking Skynet on our every single device, taking screenshots of our messages and all this other shit. That's the only way you can surpass encryption, honestly. If you have like Viber or all these encrypted apps like Telegram, they can't read your messages from the data being sent. However, they can take a screenshot of your screen as you're talking on it. Oh, so you can search your messages better. Yeah, fucking yeah, that's right. Anyway, this is ridiculous. I hope this stops, but I highly doubt it's gonna. Alright, well, like and subscribe. I'm out. I'll be back later with some more. I don't know what, depends on what I find. Maybe make some game stuff now. Get a little bored, want to play some games. But it is survival week, so I'm probably gonna play more Project Zomboid later.